Praise the Lord and welcome to Sunday Morning Christian Education. My name is Teraie Deloach and I attend Greater Bethlehem Temple Apostolic Church located on 4781 Hamilton Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio, where Bishop James Chapman is the pastor and our First Lady is Lady Robin Chapman, and where we all proclaim there is a God in Bethlehem and Jesus is his name. Today's lesson is titled Esther's Bold Faith, and it comes from the book of Esther, chapter 3, verses 2 through 3, and verses 5 through 6a, and chapter 4, verses 7 through 16. And the golden text reads, "So will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish." And that's Esther chapter 4, verse 16. Now let's talk a little bit about Esther. Esther did not grow up in a royal household. Instead, she was an orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai. They were Jewish and lived in Susa. Esther was exceptionally beautiful. Esther was brought to the palace, and out of all the young women that attended, she was selected as the king's favorite and declared queen. Mordecai told her not to reveal she was Jewish because, of course, they had enemies. Mordecai remained involved in Esther's life and continued to give her advice, even after she became queen. His lasting godly influence encouraged her to take a bold stand before the king later on in the lesson. Esther replaced the former queen, which was Queen Vashti. Queen Vashti angered the king and lost her position. She refused to come in at the king's commandment by his chamberlains to show off her beauty. Now he was drunk and he wanted his wife, Queen Vashti, to come and parade in front of all his friends. Now, he wanted her to have only a crown on and be naked, only with a crown on her head. But she refused. Her decision to appear before the king had one of his royal advisors, whose name was Memucan. He had a hidden agenda because he wanted his daughter to replace Queen Vashti. So he wanted her to be out the way. So the king, he advised that the king send out letters stating that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people. Now the king was very angry and perhaps humiliated and embarrassed about what Queen Vashti had did. So he agreed. At first I applauded and agreed with Queen Vashti by saying no to the king, because that was his wife, and how dare he parade her like that in front of those men, his friends. That was degrading. But I also read a commentary. According to a commentary, Queen Vashti had her own little thing going on the side that wasn't right. She would bring Jewish women and strip them naked and order them to perform work on the Sabbath. So now, since the shoe was on the other foot, she had a problem. But the commentary also stated that she had leprosy erupt all over her body. And according to another tradition, the angel Gabriel came and fixed a tail to her. God intervened in various ways in order to prevent Queen Vashti from heeding King Ahasuerus. Also, She was not banished, or some say executed, in the commentary, executed, because of her disobedience, but because of the possible effects that her action would have on other, less powerful women who would follow her lead to disobeying their husbands. It's just so crazy, because the way she mistreated the Jewish women, she was misplaced by one. Funny how things turn out. So now let's start where the lesson begins. Haman had received an elevation from King Ahasuerus. He was promoted to prime minister in his government, above even his 7 counselors. So with this position, everyone commanded by the king would bow to show honor to him. Everyone but Mordecai. He wasn't going. He refused to bow because he was Jewish. And Jewish, they just don't do that, because they bow down to only the one true God. Just like the 3 Hebrew boys. I know y'all know about them. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Everybody was ordered to bow to King Nebuchadnezzar's golden image. And they refused, because that wasn't their king or God. So Haman was a man, not their God. So in Exodus 20, chapter 20, verse 3 through 5, it states, "Thou shalt not have no other gods before me." Number 4, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth." Number 5, "Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord, thy God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers above the children, unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me." So Mordecai was just obeying God. And who gonna obey somebody else other than God? So Haman was upset and he found out that Mordecai was Jewish. So like I said, they had enemies. The Jewish people had enemies. And so Haman sought out to destroy all the Jews. I think he was pissed off to the highest of festivity. He not only wanted to just kill Mordecai, he wanted to kill all of the Jews. Wow. He was very angry. But that just hit his pride, and it was personal. So, when Mordecai found out about Haman's plan to kill all the Jews, the lesson says he put on sackcloth and ashes, and there was a common display of mourning. So Esther found out that he was mourning, and so she sent out a trusted servant named Hatak to find out what was going on. So Mordecai told the servant, and the servant went back to Esther. Now that was their way of communicating, through the servant. So Mordecai had written proof of the plot and the amount of money that was paid out for this to happen. And he sent Esther a copy of the decree. Our lesson says this was probably one of the official documents that was being circulated in the royal city Shushan. So because of this document, Jews throughout the empire was fasting, weeping, and mourning. Mordecai had urged Esther to plead with the king regarding this matter. Now, even though they were cousins, Mordecai raised Esther like his daughter. So, but this time he spoke differently to her. He spoke with authority, not as the queen, but like a father talking to a daughter. So Mordecai told her to reveal her ethnic background. She had to do that. And Esther had to risk her life for the lives of the people of God. Esther sent word to Mordecai that she could be killed if she just went into the king uninvited. That was a Persian law, because you couldn't just walk up to the king, and just like you can't just walk up to the president. And this was just for their safety and their protection to avoid assassinations attempts. If the king extended his golden scepter, that would avoid you being killed. So Mordecai had to convince Esther that God put her there for a reason, for the will of God's people. He warned her if she failed to act, her and her house would perish. Mordecai also sought to persuade her by citing the greatness of the opportunity that God had made available to her. Esther had the opportunity to deliver an entire nation. Mordecai made it clear to Esther that this opportunity was a divine opportunity. Esther agreed to go to the king. But before going to the king, Esther asked all of God's people to observe a 3-day fast along with her and those who were in the palace. Esther then decided, after the fasting, if she perished, she perished. She knew it was bigger than her at that moment. She had to help her people. So Mordecai agreed and made arrangements for the fast to take place in support of the queen. The stage was set for God's deliverance. Now come back next week to see how things turned out. I know you know the story, but come back anyway. See how it turned out. So I hope I have put something on your mind. Until next time, God bless.